All right, welcome back to the training aspect of the video blog series. So today what I'm going to cover is give you an insight on what Rosa and I use in our training to help increase the stability and the strength within the three major joints in the legs: the ankles, the knees, and the hips. Now, a couple of videos ago, we discussed the strategy behind using the J99 shoes for Rosa. Now, I discussed that in the assessment, I noticed that the ankles were very weak. Now, let me elaborate on what I saw. Now, one of the things that I looked at in Rosa's posture was how she stands. And one of the things that I noticed was the position of the hips. Now, the hips started to lean forward. Once my hips lean forward, it means that my weight is going to be on my heels. So with the weight being on the heels, the weight is always going to be, or the heels are always going to be in a planted position. So the strength or the endurance of having bouncy ankles wasn't apparent at the moment or at the time of the assessment. So that's why we elevated the shoe in the J99s. So that way all she can do was stand or move within ankle joints. So that was one of the things that we did pretty much all year. She worked out in them, not during our sessions, but homework sessions. She had to walk in them, had to run in them in order to build the strength in the ankles so that the ankles would be strong enough to make the run easy during the marathon. Another way we increased the stability and the strength of the ankle, knee, and hip joint was this 4-quadrant system. Now what we did was we chose number sequences. We chose 2 number sequences or up to 3 number sequences, well, no, up to 4. And we had to jump from number to number, whatever, depending on the sequence. Now we also challenged not just the jump. Jumping is 2 feet. Hopping is 1 leg. So we did jumping and hopping number sequences as a warm-up to help strengthen, again, the ankles, the knees, and the hips, so that when it was time to come run for the marathon, the ankles will be a lot better shape and a lot stronger to perform the task at hand. So as an example, let's choose 1 and 2. Now 1 and 2 is going to be 2 numbers that are side by side. So if we were jumping, I would stand with my 2 feet and I would jump back and forth. Now the goal is to jump back and forth as softly, or land as softly as you can, so that way we're not hitting the floor extremely hard and having the joints absorb all that shock. We wanted to make sure that the muscles can absorb the shock. That way it makes running a lot easier. So we challenged the different sequences, single leg and double leg. So that's just kind of an insight of how we trained for this marathon. Although we didn't run, like I said, we didn't run miles upon miles, but every single time that we worked out, we used this system to warm up, and the J99s to increase her strength in her ankles. So just a little insight on how we train here at Functional Core Fitness.
All right, Sunday morning, November 20th. So like during the summertime, I had this idea, and when I was looking for a facility to join for the pool, all the pools were indoor, and the YMCA was the only one that had the outdoor pool. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to be swimming outside during the event and it's going to be cold, I might as well join a gym with an outdoor pool, because it's going to be cold during the winter. It'll prepare my body for the cold weather. Well, it's wintertime now. It's 50 degrees outside, and it was all good in theory, but now that I actually got to do it, it is not the business. Anyway, I just wanted to share this little quick thought of mine. All good, all things sound great in theory, but when it's time to do it, Anyways, that's my little struggle. Early morning, Sunday. See you guys soon. All right, so weather wasn't too bad. It's just the initial getting out, or getting up in the morning, getting out, having to rinse off, then walking to the pool. After that the pool wasn't too bad. It was 83 degrees, so that's pretty warm. So not too bad. They had to close the pool down early for some unbalanced chemicals or whatever. So I didn't get to finish my 1,000 meters, but I got 750 in 25 minutes, which is, you know, not the best. But since I'm just kind of doing this just for conditioning before I see the coach next week or next weekend, I'm finding all this data on my phone, and I really can't wait to start really honing in on the technique, the timing, I mean, everything. I like to see numbers. So if I can see the numbers from where I started to, you know, maybe the week before race day, I really want to see just the progressions. I'm really excited about that. Just kind of found it on the app. So I really am into the Apple Health app. Everything's connected to my phone or my watch. Even when I do jiu-jitsu, I connect a Polar, which I don't have with me at the moment, a Polar, I think it's called a H1, I don't remember, but anyways, it's a heart rate monitor that I wear on my arm when I do jiu-jitsu. So I get to see my energy output. You know, I get to see my heart rate, how hard I worked. It's all the geeky stuff. Anyway, I'm really interested to see, not just for the swimming, but for the running and for the cycling. I didn't get to do that much long distance running this time around, even though I trained for a marathon. I chose the high intensity, short duration type of training. Yesterday I ran 2 miles with my dog, and actually that's the longest I've ran during this whole training. The furthest I ran has been 1 mile. So again, it's gonna be very interesting to see how the philosophy plays out. We'll see. But I'm very confident in my training. I actually followed the program that Martin Rooney developed. It's called Warrior Cardio. And this Warrior Cardio is the same program that I used, that I keep mentioning, that I talk about, that I use for the World's Toughest Mudder, or for the 11 Tough Mudders, you know, in 11 consecutive months. I did the Warrior Cardio program, which is a 12-week program, high intensity program, and then I also did swimming for, you know, cardio, more for the controlling of my breathing. But we are going to see have again, after the marathon, I'm really gonna again hone in on the program, on how I'm going to make myself better in these 3 sports. Again, I have a book that I've read about 10 years ago, and it's by Brian McKenzie. So he talks about, you know, the training for a triathlon. So I will talk about that book later in a future video, but just kind of give you guys a kind of an insight that I am following an outline of another trainer's program, but then what I do is I alter it based on the exercises that I like, but I just use the same philosophies. So again, everything really will start, the geeky stuff will start after the marathon, but for now, again, this just kind of training for fun. I really haven't gotten too detailed, but again, we'll see. All right, well, week 5 is in the books. Training is good. I cannot believe that the marathon is 2 weeks away. I mean, I'm shocked how fast a year has gone by. I mean, it just feels like yesterday that Rosa said, hey, let's run a marathon. I'm like, okay. And every single time I would see her, she'd ask questions about the marathon. And I'm just thinking, just don't worry about it. Just let the training prepare you for what's upcoming. Because I figured we had so much time that we were eventually going to cover all the questions she had. Well, she's still asking questions, and we are 2 weeks away. Now, I say that jokingly. We are definitely prepared mentally and physically for this upcoming marathon. But again, I'm just excited. We're excited to get this show on the road. Once the marathon is over, then I'm going to strictly focus on the Ironman, where I will start researching on bicycles to get, road bikes to get, and looking to get some type of trainer for the cycling portion. Again, next week is Thanksgiving weekend, and I'll be headed to Las Vegas finally. If my flights are correct, I will be there next week learning how to swim efficiently in open water. And then, like I said, when I come back, then I'll go into the cycling,
and start researching that while I practice the swimming portion. So all in all, things are coming along just fine. So what I wanted to talk about was shoes. Which shoes we decided to go with when it comes to our marathon. Now, I personally, day to day, am a minimalist shoe wearer. If you can tell, the space between my feet and the floor is extremely thin. I mean, I can feel every piece of rock on the floor. I can feel everything. I personally love that feeling. I want to feel connected to the ground. I want to feel everything. To me, it's a sensory input. My brain is just receiving all this data on my surroundings, and I feel very connected to the floor. Another thing with these minimal shoes is the flexibility in the shoe. I mean, I can wring this shoe out like a rag. So my foot is doing the majority of the flexibility and the stability of my movement. Also, the shoebox, right, is a wide shoebox, and my feet feel comfortable. A lot of times, tennis shoes are so narrow that people's feet are kind of clumped together. I like to have my feet and my toes open up wide, so that way the muscles in between my bones are loose. So having tight feet, not the business. So we, meaning Rosa and I, we decided to go with the Hoka. This is the Hoka Bondi 7, and the heel, or the sole I should say, is 4 millimeters. Now 4 millimeters to me is a platform, 1970s platform. I have never worn anything so high before in my life. The first time I wore them, I actually almost tripped and fell because I'm so disconnected from the ground. I can't feel anything. All I feel is comfortable sole. So when it comes to connectivity to the ground, I'm totally disconnected. I don't feel comfortable walking around day to day with these shoes on because I just can't, I'm not getting enough input from my environment. I'm not saying anything bad for those who do wear the high sole shoes, but for me, not so much. But when it comes to sport and fitness are two different rules, or two different sets of rules. What you do in fitness is not necessarily will transfer over to sport. So when it comes to sport, there are different leniencies to things that you wouldn't do in your day-to-day. So the reason we chose this shoe is because of the disconnectivity of the floor, or the disconnection of the floor. Our foot now is extremely comfortable. Now, we're not looking to race, or we're not looking to run this race for speed. We're looking to complete the race. So when we complete the race, we want to make sure that what she feels or how she feels the next day and the days and weeks post-marathon, we want to make sure that she's not affected by it. So that's why we went with all the training that we did. We worked on deceleration. We worked on, having the muscles absorb the shock as opposed to the bones, so that she wouldn't feel hurt the next day or sore. So we compounded that with the comfortable shoe, and she's going to be in really good shape from all the training and from the comfortable shoe. So that's the reason why we chose these shoes. And although running in these are extremely comfortable, I'm most likely going to choose these type of shoes, or maybe this pair of shoe in particular, for the Ironman. So I had spoken a couple of videos ago why we chose certain shoes. Well, this is why we chose the Hokas, and this is why I will continue to use them for the Ironman, for the comfortability of my joints and especially my feet. All right, well, that is a wrap up for week number 5. Hope you enjoyed everything that we covered, and I will see you in week 6.